Today we are covering canapés. This delicious board of canapés was all made from bits and bobs in the fridge, things that might have been thrown away, and are simple and easy to recreate. They take no time at all to make. They're all things that you might have hanging around after this festive period, and they are all downright delicious. So they're perfect if you want to impress your family and friends without spending hours in the kitchen. This week we are making 6 delicious canapés, and you should come along with me to learn how to make them too. So here we are with a whole bunch of ingredients. Now these are the kind of things that might be left over from Christmas, or maybe you have hanging around in the fridge or the cupboard, and we're going to try and use up lots of these different things in the hope that I can give you some inspiration into not throwing away your little bits and pieces, but giving them a second life and making some delicious canapés. It might be something like a bit of smoked salmon that maybe you had for like a brunch. It might be a half-open packet of feta cheese that you had on a salad. It could be some leftover tomatoes, half a red onion, or even our favourite culprits, the leftover bread. All of these things are simple and easy to make into delicious new nibbles that maybe you can use if you're hosting maybe a New Year's Eve party, or that funny time between Christmas and New Year's when you've got people dropping by. You could make some of these delicious canapés with very little ingredients. Let's get into these delicious canapés, and make sure you stick around to the end because we have got some quintessential sweet treats to go with your delicious canapé board. So let's start with that first super easy canapé. So number one of these New Year's Eve leftover use up your bits canapés, we are making the classic Salmon Rillette. Now this is a great dish for using up any little bits that might be left over, because you don't need a lot to make it go a little further when you're making a canapé. Because hey, all it is one bite. I had some leftover hot smoked salmon, but if you had some regular smoked salmon, some regular salmon that maybe you cooked and you had as part of your Christmas Day lunch, I mean, you can use anything. And if all else failed and you had people coming around and you didn't know what to make, and you had a can of cooked salmon in the cupboard, you could even use that. The joy of this recipe is that you can put whatever dairy you like in it. This is such an easily adaptable canapé. I mean, if you had some sour cream like I've got here, you could even use a little bit of cream and use some lemon juice to thicken it up. Or you could even use Greek yogurt. It is so versatile. All you need is something to be able to break this down and stick it all together. That's essentially the job of the dairy that's going into it. And then all you want to do is add a few little bits and pieces. This again is great because you might have, you might have something like a bit of red onion laying around, maybe some capers, or even you had a jar of cornichon and now you don't know what to do with them. So it really is super versatile. And the only other thing that you want is some herbs. Now if you've got some fresh herbs outside, amazing, use some of them. You want something soft, I mean, you could put basil in it if you have basil. But if you know me and you've been here for a while, I'm a big fan of the old dried dill. This stuff lasts forever and it still permeates with that wonderful dill flavour. And what could be better than dill and salmon? They are the best of friends. So as you can see, it's a real mishmash of anything you've got, but whatever you like can go in. So let's get this made, and canapé 1 will be done. When you're making this canapé, all you want to do is maybe dice up some of this red onion, a few little capers, maybe 1 or 2 cornichon, add it to a bowl, put in some herbs, whatever you're using, break down that fish, but don't break it down too far because you still want it to have some texture, not just mush. Add in a little bit of whatever dairy you're using. As I said, I'm using sour cream here, but it could be creme fraiche. That would also be an absolute win. Zest in a little bit of that lemon, give it a little taste, and you may find that with this it is salty enough because you've added the capers, you've got the smoked thing, so I suggest give it a taste before you season. As always, a great chef tip, and I'm just going to add a little bit of cracked black pepper and we're ready to plate. It's the tastiest little nibble you can make. It only takes 5 minutes, and once you've plated it up, everyone is going to be thoroughly impressed with your easy, delicious canapé. I love to have it on top of these seedy crackers, and if you want to know how to make these, I've added the video up here. They take half an hour to bake in the oven and are honestly, well, some people in the comments may have called them bird food, but I love them. They're crisp, they're full of seeds, great for vegans, great for gluten-freers, they're top notch. And then it's just a matter of a little dollop on top of each. And what's great about this nibble is that a little bit goes a long way. And a little bit of extra lemon zest over the top. And there we go. Easy, simple. Looks like you've put loads of time and effort into it, but actually didn't take you that long at all. And you mostly used up your leftovers. And the best thing about this is you can adapt it to whatever you've got. That could even be a different fish. Whatever you like. Mix it up, pop it on a lovely crunchy cracker, and wha-bam. Canapé number 1 is done. So simple, but absolutely delicious. Anyways, that's canapé 1. Let's move on to canapé 2. It's number 2. We are using up more of them things from the festive season that might have gone to waste otherwise. We all know that stale bread is like number 1 contributor of things that gets thrown away. So don't be a culprit, use it up, and we are going to make something utterly delicious. So of course, the easiest way to use up a bit of stale bread is to make some delicious little croutony, crispy, crunchy little toasts. Except we're going to zhuzh it up a little bit, and we're going to use a little bit of cheese. We're going to bake them in the oven so they get this crispy, crunchy cheesiness, and then we're going to whip the feta, and we're going to roast off our little bits of tomatoes. And this one is going to be another absolute banger. Fresh, tasty, and using up stuff you have. And again, like the other one, very versatile. If you don't like tomatoes and feta and that's not what you've got, you can do anything on top of these crostini. The first thing we need to do is bake this bread. And classic me, I'm also reusing my bit of grease proof, because guess what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, so don't go throwing it in the bin if you've just used it to bake one thing. These crostini could not be easier. Just make sure that your bread is evenly sliced. You don't want one bit thicker than the other because it will take a little bit longer to crisp up. And the good thing about it being slightly stale is it won't take too long either. Grate some cheese, whatever you've got, Parmesan, cheddar, anything you like. Lay it on the bottom of the tray, lay your slices of bread on top, and drizzle with some olive oil. When they come out, we can always rub a little bit of garlic on them for that little extra je ne sais quoi. Pop them into bake at 180 degrees for about 5-10 minutes until they're crispy crunchy. You can even turn them over and make sure that other side is crisping up too. Then we're going to whip up the feta. You can do this in a machine, but we're making such a small amount it really doesn't matter. And what's really great about this is if you don't have any cream or anything to loosen it up, just add a bit of plain yogurt, because I guarantee that most people have that hanging around always. Give it a good season, a little bit of lemon juice and some pepper. You probably don't need any salt because feta is pretty salty anyway. And then the last thing we need to do is just slowly confit these tomatoes on the stove top. It's super simple. Just add a little dash of olive oil, a little bit of balsamic, some salt, pepper, and if you've got it, a little stalk of some basil, and keep the leaves for your garnish. You want it to be juicy, delicious. If you've got a little bit of tomato paste, add that in too. Season it up, cook it all out, let them soften, but you don't want them to burst or turn to mush, so you need to do it low and slow, and then we can get this plated up. The tiny little additions like the balsamic and the tomato puree, when you're confiting the tomatoes, add all them little extra bits and pieces that really take no time at all. And again, everyone will think you're a superstar for serving up something that looks so cute and delicious. Salty, fresh, sweet from the tomatoes, and that little crunchy base with that extra bit of caramelized cheese on. Yum. So that's canapé 2 done. Let's move on to the third. Canapé number 3. So this guy is a great little veggie option, and again we are going to use the culprit of maybe some leftover bread, except this time it's coming in the format of a wrap. The thing is, you often buy wraps and actually maybe there's too many, so if you do have any left over, pop them in the freezer. This is a great way to use them up and adds a great little crunchy texture and something a bit different. So for this one, we're going to make a pea puree, and we're just going to flavour it with all them delicious flavours of miso, chili crunch, coriander, and some sesame. And again, what's great about this one is you could use up anything you might have left over. So maybe you've got some roasted pumpkin or roasted beetroots that were left from your Christmas dinner or the day after. Blend them up into a puree. Especially that pumpkin is going to work so well with these flavours. It's a great way to use it up and give it a second life. No one that you feed it to will even know that it was roasted the day before. That's what I'm trying to teach you here at Dishes with Del, that if you don't have the exact ingredient I have, you can always substitute it out for something else. So let's get on with this next canapé so we can give it a little try. Because yes, I've had two, but it's lunchtime and I'm getting a bit peckish. These tortilla shells could not be an easier way to use up a leftover wrap. Cut it out, as you can see here. I don't have a cutter, so I'm actually using a cup and just cutting around it. But cut it out and chuck it into your muffin tin. I'm going mini, but if you had large, it would be a slightly bigger bite. You want to baste it with a little bit of oil on both sides, pop it in the tray and bake it till crisp in the oven. It's probably going to take about the same as the crostini, anything up to sort of 12 or 13 minutes at about 180 degrees. Then for the peas, we're just going to blanch them quickly so that they're cooked, cool them down, and then we're going to blend them up with a dollop of miso, a little bit of chili crunch, a whole load of coriander, and if you really wanted to, you could even blend a little bit of yogurt or cheese just to make it a little bit softer. I quite like the texture of this. You can go hard on some and keep a few spare to garnish up the top. Another super easy canapé that takes no time whatsoever, and you can use up anything you have. Now, how quick and simple was that? These things are packed to the brim, full of flavour, and are fresh, crisp, and utterly delectable. A little bit spicy, vibrant and sweet from the peas, and a great little tasty morsel made from almost nothing. Canapé number 4, and undoubtedly the most quintessential Christmas snack, a deviled egg. Except these guys, they ain't no regular deviled egg. We're gonna get these eggs cooked and then we're gonna give them a crispy exterior with that crunchy outside and that super creamy, yolky deliciousness. I'm not going paprika, we are going curry powder. This stuff is banging, absolutely delicious, and gives a great little twist to your old-fashioned deviled egg. So let's get these on the go and ready for the eating. Put your water on and boil your eggs. You probably want to boil them for about 6 or 7 minutes. You want that yolk to be set so that we can cream it up. Once you've peeled them, cut them in half, remove the yolks and put them to one side. Next, we need to crumb the whites, so we're going to go egg flour and panko breadcrumbs, which I've seasoned up with a little bit more of that curry powder, salt and pepper. Then give them a good spritz with oil, and guess what? They're going into my favourite kitchen appliance, the good old air fryer. This makes it quick, easy to tidy up, and you don't need to deep fry them in loads of oil. These still go crispy, crunchy, and absolutely outrageous. So get that air fryer on to 190 and give them a good crisp up. You might want to turn them over halfway through just to make sure that bottom is crunchy too. And while that's happening, we're going to mix up them yolks, add in a little bit of sour cream, some of that salt, pepper, more of that curry powder. Give it a little taste, make sure it's right, pop it in a piping bag. Then we can serve these guys up. And there it is. Crispy crunchy from the air fryer and that curried yolk interior. These are such a great addition to any canapé platter, and everyone will enjoy that crunchy exterior with that creamy curried yolk all piled up in the middle. So that's the last of the savouries. So let's move on to the 5th canapé, and we've got something a little sweet and a little bit delicious. But these guys, make sure you give them a go. We've finally made it to something sweet, and this is a great way to use up maybe that last bit of puff pastry that you had when you were making some sausage rolls. Not that I can imagine this would happen very often, but you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes you make like a tart and you don't need the whole sheet. This is a great little sweet canapé that you can make using that last bit of puff. And then I've made here a crunchy version of, let's call it Nutella. So if you had some Nutella at home, this would be a great way to use a little bit of it up and slather it on. But if you didn't, all I did here was roast a few hazelnuts, and I blitzed it up with a little bit of maple syrup, cocoa powder and salt. And to top it all off, some cinnamon. Oh, so much better than the stuff you buy in the jar, but super simple to make and a delicious filling for this. So what I like to do is peel it off the paper it comes on and sit it on a new bit. What we're gonna do is cut these into little squares and we are gonna make little puff pastry balls filled to the brim with this homemade Nutella Ferrero Rocher style filling. And I tell you what, it's an absolute win. So cut it into squares. And this is what's great about rolling it up, is that if it's a bit of a funny shape like this, it really doesn't matter. So all you want to do is cut your pastry into little squares, put some of the filling in the middle, ball it up. I'm going to roll it in a little bit of milk, and in they go to bake. The great thing about this is it doesn't matter what shape that puff pastry is, just as long as you can get a little bit of the filling and pinch the edges so you can get it into a ball, it doesn't really matter. They're like little snowballs filled to the brim with Ferrero Rocher deliciousness. And all you need to do is bake them off and voila, Ferrero Rocher balls ready for your canapé platter. And 15 minutes later, these little darling balls of puff pastry stuffed to the brim with that wonderful Ferrero Rocher centre are ready to plate. And to finish it off, just dust it with a little bit of icing sugar for that truly festive feel. Oh. If you served these warm, they would be an absolute winner. That chocolatey, cinnamony interior with that puff pastry outside. It's a cheeky little Christmas treat that everyone in the family will love. But now it's time to move on to that last sweet canapé, because if you couldn't be bothered to make these because you thought maybe they were a bit too much effort, well then this canapé is the one for you. We've made it to the last one, and as you can see here, there's just 2 ingredients. And if you couldn't be bothered to make these, my famous orange peel dipped in chocolate, because they were too much like hard work, well then this one is for you. There are 2 steps to this canapé, and every single person in the family will love it, because what is more quintessentially Christmas than chocolate and oranges? For this canapé, all you need to do is peel your orange segments, melt your chocolate, dip them in, pop them in the fridge, and we are ready to go. And that is it. After 5 minutes in the fridge, these perfect little orange segments covered in chocolate are ready to eat. I love these because I think they're kind of like the winter version of strawberries dipped in chocolate. They're so pretty, so elegant, and take all of 3 minutes to make. So if you don't get these on your canapé list this year, you're a silly bugger. Simple and easy, chocolate orange segments, the perfect canapé for everyone in the family. They are absolutely delicious. You feel good because you're having some fruit, but also you've got that sweet chocolatey hit. So we'll add these final canapés to our beautiful canapé board that we've created from things that may have gone to waste, maybe were left over, and just packed to the brim with flavour. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I really hope that you try out some of these canapés and maybe use up some bits and pieces that you thought you were going to throw away. These are great, easy canapés if you're throwing a New Year's party, or maybe you're watching this at another time of the year and you thought, I need some simple canapés, and you've made it all the way here to Dishes with Del. But that is the end of this week, so I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below which one of these are you going to try. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you all soon, and now I'm going to go and share these all with my friends. See ya!